Hey guys, welcome back to another late-night wander through the slower, stranger corners of history. If you're already in bed, phone propped dangerously on your chest, and the world outside feels quiet, that's perfect. Tonight, we're visiting a place where silence wasn't just encouraged, it was mandatory. The medieval monastery. Now, monks were supposed to live simple, holy lives, no luxury, no gossip, no fun. Just prayer, work, and the occasional reminder that joy was probably a sin. Their days followed the rule of Saint Benedict, a 6th century manual on how to be both humble and slightly miserable in God's service. Picture it. Stone walls, flickering candles, and the constant echo of bells. Because everything, and I mean everything, was ruled by bells. The first one rang around 2 a.m., when the monks woke for matins, the night prayer. While most of medieval Europe was still dreaming about roast chickens, the monks were already in the chapel chanting psalms about mortality. After matins came lauds, just before sunrise. Then, finally, a tiny break, not for sleeping though, but for work. They farmed, copied manuscripts, cooked, or made beer because holiness is thirsty work. Their entire day revolved around the divine office. 8 rounds of prayer spaced evenly from dawn to night. Prime, terce, sext, none, vespers, and compline filled the hours between labor. Basically, it was an unending cycle of pray, work, eat, pray again. Repeat until death or sainthood, whichever came first. Meals weren't exactly Michelin-starred. Bread, soup, and beans were staples. Meat was forbidden unless you were sick, which created an interesting incentive structure. The dining hall, the refectory, was silent. Instead of conversation, one monk stood at a pulpit reading scripture aloud while everyone else ate in quiet reflection. Imagine trying to enjoy your soup while someone dramatically reads Leviticus. Bathing was rare. Weekly if you were lucky, yearly if you were a purist. A shiny forehead was seen as vanity. Robes were thick, scratchy, and designed to remind you that comfort was for sinners. And let's not forget the tonsure, that shaved circle on the top of the head that looked suspiciously like a medieval Wi-Fi signal. After evening prayers came compline, the final service before bed. The monks confessed any stray thoughts, said a last psalm, and then slept, fully clothed on straw mattresses in cold stone dormitories. If you snored, well, that was probably another thing to confess tomorrow. Still, there was peace in the repetition. No chaos, no noise, no surprises, just a rhythm of prayer and quiet labor. In a world filled with war and plague, that must have felt almost heavenly. But of course, where there's routine, there's rebellion. And as it turns out, not every monk was quite as saintly as they looked in their illuminated manuscripts. Let's drift a little deeper into the cloisters, where temptation, pride, and the occasional forbidden sausage awaited. Alright, still awake? Perfect. Let's stay in that dreamy, candlelit mood as we glide into the other side of monastic life. The part the monks probably didn't include in their prayer books. Because, despite their vows, monks were still human. And being human, well, they got bored. Let's begin with food, the first and most relatable sin. Those endless meals of soup and bread didn't always cut it. Historical records tell us of monks sneaking meat into stews, bribing kitchen workers, or conveniently developing illnesses that required meat for recovery. Some monasteries, like the famously wealthy Cluny Abbey, went full gourmet. Donations from nobles turned their kitchens into something resembling a medieval buffet. By the 12th century, these supposedly humble monks were enjoying multi-course feasts that would make their founder roll in his grave. Then came drink. Beer and wine were technically allowed in moderation. But moderation is a vague concept. Many abbeys brewed their own beer, labeling it as a safer alternative to water. At some point, they were producing more barrels than prayers. Some monks even specialized in beer for hydration purposes, the medieval equivalent of calling wine grape juice therapy. And of course, there was silence. Speech was forbidden outside of prayer, so monks developed a complex sign language. It was meant for practical things, bread, book, please pass the salt, but predictably evolved into gossip and sarcasm. Medieval chroniclers noted that silent conversations often got animated. Because even holiness couldn't stop a little medieval shade. Every rule had its rebels. Some monks fled altogether, slipping into nearby towns to eat, drink, or, in a few cases, join traveling theater troupes, which, honestly, feels like the ultimate career pivot. 1 week copying psalms, the next playing the devil in a mystery play. Others struggled with pride. Abbots built luxurious private rooms for guests that, mysteriously, only they used. Some collected gold and relics like medieval influencers curating their divine aesthetic. And yes, there were scandals. The vow of chastity? Not exactly foolproof. Monks and nuns from nearby convents sometimes met under suspicious circumstances. One English priory investigation found that several monks had fathered children in the local village. The official report, in politely horrified Latin, simply concluded, "Discipline is lacking." Still, for every misbehaving brother, hundreds kept their vows. They chanted, farmed, copied texts, and preserved the written word that would later rebuild Europe's knowledge. They doodled snails and cats in the margins of manuscripts, laughed quietly at the absurdity of life, and went on with their prayers. By night, the monastery fell back into its steady rhythm. Bells ringing, candles flickering, voices blending into one long hum of devotion. Peaceful, predictable, human, and maybe that's the most relatable part. The monks weren't perfect. They were just trying, failing sometimes, praying always, in a world that never stopped being messy. So as you drift off tonight, remember them, the men of silence, of discipline, of small rebellions. And somewhere in the distance, if you listen closely, maybe you'll hear those ancient bells, still echoing, still calling, through the quiet folds of history.